You want to be a bodybuilder that also plays sports really well? Watch this.
Our next caller is Eric from Ohio.
Eric, what's happening? How can we help you?
Hey guys. I just wanted to start off to thank you. All the stuff you have done a lot for me in my life the past few months that I found out with you guys. So going straight into the question, I've heard a few episodes from you guys recently in the past month or two, and it's talking a lot about training for different parts of your season. And so obviously there's like professionals or in high school, things of that sort, college. It's very easy when you have your season and off season. But for someone when there really isn't a off season, how do you train? Whether for off season, preseason. So I'm curious for a broad sense, but also for mine. So I can go and like explain mine, but as a broad sense, how does someone do this?
Well, there is no broad sense. It would be very specific to what you're doing, because how much you're playing volleyball matters how we would program your training. So there's not really like a broad answer other than you would complement your training to your volleyball volume, right? So however much volleyball you're playing would dictate how much training volume we would do this. So that's kind of the generic answer. The more specific one is when you tell us, this is how much I play volleyball every week, and these are my goals. Mm-hmm. I want to be good at volleyball, or I want to be six-pack abs, or I want to jump higher. Like that all matters. And then the programming change based on that. So why don't you tell us what it is that you want to accomplish and
what your schedule looks like? What is your season?
Yeah, and are you competing year round, or is this like spurts of competition where it gets more intensive, right? So we could kind of lead up to some of those bouts. But yeah, give us a little more information and context.
Okay. Yeah. So, obviously it gets cold. We have indoor season, and then in the summer we have sand season. So that's why there's not really much of a off season.
Okay.
So during indoor season, there are leagues. They are high competitive leagues. So although they are for fun, there are semi-pro players. There are many collegiate athletes and of that sort. And that's indoor, which indoor starts around October and goes until April. And then by that time, it's usually warm enough. We go straight into sand. For me, during indoor season, I usually play, so like the leagues 2 to 3 days a week, but then also open gym, which is less competition. And that's purely for fun. 1 day a week. So it's usually around anywhere from 2 to 4 days a week.
Okay.
And then sand, I more play sand because indoors over, not a big fan of it. So that's usually only like once a week. And I still try and find like indoor times. There's very few places, but we'll play indoor.
So Eric, so you do have an off season and an in season, it sounds like. So when you're doing,
no, he doesn't.
Well, no, what I mean by that is when you're doing sand, you're doing less less volleyball than when you're playing indoor.
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit less.
So that's when I would do more training in the gym. So look at your entire schedule. And if you're doing 3 days a week or less of volleyball, I would do 1 to 2 days a week of strength training. If it's more than 3 days a week of volleyball, I wouldn't do that much strength training. I would focus mostly on mobility. And that's just kind of how I would look at the whole thing. So depending on how much volleyball you're doing, that would dictate how much strength training I do that week. So if you're doing 2 days a week of volleyball, then I would do 1 day or 2 days a week of strength training. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And and depending on where you're at in your life and your goals, you can manipulate that. So let's say you're, been doing this for 2 or 3 years and you're like, I love playing volleyball, but I also would like to sculpt my physique a little bit more, scale back to volleyball. Pull back 1 or 2 days of volleyball, add 1 or 2 more days of strength training. The mistake that people make at your age, the point you're at right now, is trying to do all of it at once, thinking you're going to be this ripped, good-looking, fit, also badass volleyball player. Something's got to give. Either you're going to be a not-so-great volleyball player but look really good on the court because you put very little time into playing volleyball and you put most of your time in the gym, or you're going to be look athletic and fit, but maybe not look like a jacked bodybuilder and really good at volleyball. And so, and trying to live in both worlds, like you end up suffering both, right? Versus like focus on what is more important to you right now. That's how you should prioritize your training for the week. And as that shifts through the year and over years, you just manipulate that. So if you're,
Totally.
and that's what I meant by when we first started this conversation, that there isn't really like a broad generic answer other than you should complement your volleyball with your strength training, not trying to get.
Now, what I meant by you do have an off season or an in season isn't that you stop playing. It's in the sense. So the reason why there's in season training and off season training in the gym, it's really dictated by the intensity of their practice and their gameplay. That's what dictates the workouts. So anybody who plays any sport, if you look at their whole year, there's periods of time when they're practicing and playing more, and there's periods of the year when they're practicing and playing less. So when that happens, then you could do more gym time versus when you're playing and practicing more, which is less gym time. So a general answer would be 1 full body workout a week when you're playing indoor, and when you're playing sand, 2 full body workouts a week. That would be general.
Right. And if I had more information and context, there may be a way to structure in like a sort of a MAPS 15 protocol where you could do like a really low volume training just to kind of make sure that we're hitting and addressing the strength of your muscles and kind of have that complement what you're doing. But in terms of like me knowing the exact amount of volume of stress that you're placing on your body through all that, I would need to kind of be able to monitor that, figure that out, and almost have you on like an HRV kind of a setup to be able to
well, to that point, Justin, did you listen to the Corey Schlesinger episode? The NBA coach?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, Justin's referencing like basically microdosing your training
right
during the off-season time. So you could technically still train every day. Then this takes more skill to do this, right? I think Sal's general advice
that's going to be the easiest to adopt
is the easiest for the average person to apply. But if you wanted to get real technical and work towards being able to train more often during in season, you need to be very conscious of your intensity. So you could still train, but in these microdose type training sessions and reducing the intensity. But that's takes some skill to be able to do that, to know that. Because again, everybody, and I love when Sal says, what you can tolerate isn't necessarily what's optimal for your body. So just because you can get through a weight training workout doesn't mean that was what was good for your body while you're also playing volleyball. So learning how to, if you're going to microdose training, you've got to really learn how to scale back the intensity and learn to feel your body out and listen.
If you don't have MAPS 15, I'm going to send that to you, Eric, because I bet if you just follow that while you play, however much you play, you'll probably progress most of the time with just that alone.
That's a good
Not
call.
the advanced blueprint, the other
The
one.
15, the 15 version with the suspension trainer.
Yeah.
I bet if you just followed that while you played, you would see yourself progress.
Okay. Yeah, I do have that one. I just got knee surgery about 2 months ago and just got fully cleared about 2 weeks ago. And I was in the middle of anabolic for the second time, but I bought 15 when it came out. Still have yet to try it.
Yeah, I think that'll be perfect.
How did you blow your knee out?
My quad tendon was partially torn.
Oh, okay.
Playing volleyball?
Yeah.
And also weight training around that same time?
Yep.
Yeah.
Little indication there.
That's why, bro.
We got to work on our intensity and
Probably
complementing
overdoing
it.
it.
Yeah.
No, follow MAPS 15. That's just do that. I think you'll be fine, regardless of how much volleyball you play, unless it's like ridiculous. I bet that'll give you pretty good, consistent results the whole time.
Yeah, it's good advice
For sure.
Okay. Yep. I guess
All right.
I wanted to going back into like coming back, trying to like rebuild a base, because I noticed like my vertical has dropped quite a bit. And I didn't know if retrying to build the base, as I've heard you guys mention, or 15 might be a little bit better to go.
I think 15 is going to be very appropriate. I bet you're going to see progress the entire time.
Are you already following our friends Max Marzo and Paul Fabritz already too on Instagram?
Paul Fabritz, yes. The other one I've never heard of him. What was it?
Max Marzo. That's his thing too, right? Isn't it under his name? Max Schmarzo. MAX and then SCHMARZO.
You got it.
Thank you, Doug. Well, that's
Schmar-
one for 50 there.
Schmarzo. Sounds made up, but it's a real name.
Yeah, so all the stuff that those guys all teach, real applicable to the training and stuff that you do. It's really designed to keep, athletes in great condition, vertical, multiplanar movements, like the stuff that they put out there, force production, deceleration. These are all skills that are going to benefit your volleyball. So definitely follow those guys and take a look at the stuff they got.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Be sure to look at Max.
You got it. Thanks,
all right.
man.
All right. Thank you.
Of course, he fucking blew something
Yeah,
out.
I know, dude. I knew where you were going. I'm like, come on, Adam. You make the kid feel bad.
Well, I mean,
we've all been there.
Shit, I'm the fucking, the pot calling the kettle black here because I've 4 seasons in a row injured from, but that's exactly why I got injured though, is that
you were doing everything.
I was still so obsessed with looking a certain part, but then also loved basketball so much. And something did have to give. My Achilles tendon, my ACL, my ankle, like shit just kept giving because I wasn't training my body according to the sport that I was trying to play. I was trying to go full throttle at both, and that's
trying to be a basketball bodybuilder.
Yeah.
The challenging thing too when you're young is you seem to have this like your tolerance for stress and exercise is so high.
You're very resilient.
That the only time that you tend to realize or overdo it is exactly that.
Well, that's why I love when you say that. I think it's such a great way to communicate that, is that what you can tolerate is not what is optimal for you. Because I was fine in the gym. I was fine. Like I didn't think I was like overdoing it. I didn't feel extra stressed. I wasn't like achy. I felt amazing, but my body wasn't conditioned. And I wasn't managing load management on what I was trying to do on the courts. I was trying to be a bodybuilder who also played basketball, and it's just, they don't complement each other.